to bring in Cruz Campaign National Co-Chair and Iowa Congressman Steve King. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me on this morning.
So make the case. What's the sales pitch? Why do you think Ted Cruz is the right choice for Iowa?
Well, I just have told people over and over again, I am a full-spectrum constitutional Christian conservative. That's who the caucus goers are, at least two-thirds of them, probably more than that. And we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to put on the springboard and launch to New Hampshire an individual that matches that description, who's been in the foxhole with me every time, who's stepped up and been a courageous fighter to defend the Constitution, to defend innocent unborn human life, to defend marriage, to defend religious liberty, to defend our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. That is a fiscal conservative that will bring us the argument from the White House to bring forth and pass a balanced budget amendment to our Constitution to get our fiscal house in order and a strong national defense to defeat ISIS and any other caliphate that shows up around the world. So that's just a short list of all the things that I think are great about this. By the way, repealing Obamacare, securing our borders is the two most important things that I've worked on in the last few years. Ted Cruz has always been there, been a strong way on both of those two.
You know, Congressman, and good to see you again. We talk often, and I ask you some hard questions. So my question, Ted Cruz gets his people out to the caucuses, and now they have to deliver and convince the Trump voters, Trump supporters, and you've got Carson, who's been in the state for a year. This is not an easy task. So how does he get that done? How does his supporters get it done, and do the endorsements really matter when it comes to it?
Well, I think the endorsements have mattered as people start to make decisions moving up towards this day. But now that we're on caucus day, the ground game is what kicks in. And he has had thousands and thousands of volunteers in this state and thousands that have come into this state. And there's nobody that's got a ground game that is competitive with that of Ted Cruz. So this get out the vote effort that's there is going to work, I believe. And then on top of that, if you look at Trump's numbers, I mean, he's got, he's sitting there by the polls. It looks like he's got a lead in the polls. When you look at those that have Trump as a second choice, there are only like 6% that have Trump as a second choice. Ted Cruz wins the second choice competition on this. And my message to the people that have been supporting people like Ben Carson, Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee, and others is, and especially also Marco Rubio, if you want your vote to count, then your choice is this. Come vote for Cruz. Send a thank you card to those guys for putting themselves up in front.
But this is Iowa.
Because
this
we
is
appreciate
Iowa,
them.
Congressman. Yeah. What about the ethanol opposition? And the governor has come out. Now, you and I discussed this on my show, ethanol and the opposition to Cruz on this. Is there a ground game against him in the caucuses?
Well, there's been a ground game out here on ethanol since mid-last summer. And there's been a ground game following the Cruz bus around. But I don't know how much impact that has. It does make a difference, and I know that people do bring that up in the polling. But in the end, when the governor says, don't vote for Cruz because he's not good for ethanol, I tell them, wait a minute. I spent my life working in that industry, and I've had the full support of the ag industry. Ted Cruz is the only candidate that's put together an ethanol policy. It is far better than any other candidate's policy, especially in the long term. Over a 10-year window, Ted Cruz lifts us up, and we'll be building ethanol plants again. So I'd say to the governor, open your ears this morning, have another cup of coffee, and run the tape of this conversation again.
Let me get Dakin McDowell in here. Dakin.
There is a pro-life group that's been running an ad against Donald Trump. How much does that hurt him or help all the other candidates who have been lifelong supporters of basically basically the right to have a life?
Well, I haven't seen the ad and I heard very much about it, but I would just say this, that there was a lot of concern and trepidation about Mitt Romney coming to a pro-life position later in life. But Donald Trump's has been essentially aggressively pro-choice when he has said he's a strong supporter of pro-choice, and he'll accept the idea of partial birth abortion and accept the idea of gay marriage. And so I think that the longer this goes, when people go to caucus, I think that especially the evangelicals' conscience will kick in. They'll think of a Donald Trump's bluster in the Oval Office, think, how can we have a country with a president that doesn't set a moral standard for the rest of the country. They remember what Bill Clinton did to our moral standards back in that era, and they will see what President Obama has done to our Constitution. They're not going to push somebody that doesn't have a constitutional concept either.
Yeah, real quick, Senator Scott Brown.
No, the reason that they like him is because he's not like everybody else. I was there for 3 years. The gridlock's off the charts, and because he's not like the typical politician, that's what's so attractive. He's going to get in there and not be like the others.
He's principled. He's principled. That's what I keep saying.
He says what he's going to do and does it, period.
Yeah.
So.
We just don't know which principles that Donald Trump is going to operate off of, and that's why we won't sleep well at night.
Yeah. I was talking about the principles of
States.
Senator Cruz, actually. I was talking about Senator Cruz when I said that.
I was talking about...
Thank you, and absolutely, that's true.
Maria, they're all principled, but bottom line is the reason that people are going toward Donald Trump is because he is the one who's going to cut through the gridlock, and he's not going to be like the others.
Right.
There's been, decades of gridlock, and he's going to say, I'm going to get in there and get it done.
He's
and
resonating.
Make America great again, and that's why people like him.
You're right. Congressman, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Maria.
We'll see you soon, sir. Congressman King there. Don't forget